What's going on, guys? K-Pen here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring yet another really strong team in the Open Great League that you can use to help make that final push during the last week of Season 23 of the GOBattleLeague. The team consists of a Feraligatr Lead, Tinkaton Safe Swap, and Diggersby Closer. If you're new to the channel and don't know why regular Gator over the Shadow, as I've explained in my previous videos with it, it's just quite simply better right now with those meta matchups. Tinkaton Safe Swap and Diggersby Closer kind of round out the team in more of an ABC style instead of an ABB style. But if you get a bad lead with Gator, you still always use that Tink Safe Swap, as Diggersby almost always answers it if you get Switch. And if you don't, an energy advantage on Gator is always nice. So in this video, I'll be featuring two back-to-back 4-1 sets I had with the team while leaderboard elo. And with that, let's get right into the battles. All right, getting to the first battle, we lead Gator into non-shadow Pidgeot. Pretty decent lead for us here, as we are going to spam off these Hydro Cannons at it. They go straight for an Air Cutter. That's perfectly fine. They are non-shadow. We are not threatened by it. We can let it go. And we build up to the Ice Beam and then go for the Hydro Cannon. This is because it does take 2 moves to KO non-shadow Pidgeot. My opponent does know that, so they let the first move go. Because, like I said, you go for the Ice Beam, it lands, you're still going to have to throw a second move since you can't Shadow Claw it down. Opponent swaps out, tries to get the Mud Slap down with a Toedscruel. They are not able to get there. We get the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon takes out half the HP of the Toedscruel, and that is very, very nice. Now I come in with Diggersby here. Toedscruel does have access to Seed Bomb, but Diggersby is very bulky, so we let it go, especially since Seed Bomb is not the hardest hitting move. Throw 4 more quick attacks, then the Fire Punch to KO the Toedscruel, unless they give up a shield, which they do, so I am perfectly fine shielding back, knowing that I can overfarm a ton here. And if they swap out into the Pidgeot, I would just be able to bank all that energy, then come in with my Tinkaton, but they swap into a Heliolisk, and perhaps I made a mistake there. I should have just gone for the Scorching Sands to guarantee that final shield. But coming in and reaching 2 Bulldozes is perfectly fine as well. And actually very clutch with that 1 HP survive there, in which my opponent doesn't want to give up their final shield. They want to save it for the Toedscruel, but that is fine because we have all this energy on the Diggersby. We can get to the Fire Punch. The double Fire Punches before they are able to Mud Slap us down. So my opponent does let that one go, and they can see GG's. Next battle, Feraligatr into Shadow Giratina Altered. This one's on Dragon Breath, which is fine. Shadow Claw or Dragon Breath. You build up to that Ice Beam, and then your choice if you want to full send the Ice Beam or go for the Hydro Cannon. Your opponent, I want to say more often than not, is going to be shielding that move. So with that being said, it's a fairly safe bait, but every once in a while they will call that bait. So going full sending that Ice Beam to just one-shot them and get rid of them is fantastic. And then again, if you do go for the Hydro Cannon, then you could let their move go and reach a second Hydro Cannon yourself before you get farmed down. So you kind of force switch or get shield either way. Going straight Hydro Cannon, but realistically it's your choice there. My opponent swaps in Forretress, and you would think, maybe should have come in Diggersby because the double super effective Fire Punches. But with a Ghost type lead and a Forretress safe swap, I was reading it as a Diggersby bait out. So let's see if that read is going to pay off here, as they go for yet another Sand Tomb that does take us out. And now they hard pivot back into their Dragon Breath Giratina. We're going to go for the Scorching Sands. This won't quite KO, but we'll do some nice damage to the Giratina. And now with all that energy saved up, we are going to combo play with the Hydro Cannon and take out the Giratina. But they end up shielding it, and we reach a second Hydro Cannon before they farm us down, of which they end up double shielding. So Feraligatr putting in so much work right there. Now I'm going to let this move go. It is just a Dragon Claw, not the hardest hitting move, and I know that they will be able to reach a second one before I quick attack them down. So I'm going to have to tank one, shield one regardless. So we end up shielding that one. In comes Forretress. I want to fire off this Fire Punch before they reach a Sand Tomb. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. They let it go. And now trying to see what they have in the back. It's a Tinkaton and all that energy lead, and along with that shield save for the Diggersby, we are in a good position here. We just need to make sure my opponent is not able to catch a Scorching Sands onto the Giratina, and we should be fine. They go for a Bulldoze. They get the defense drop, which makes this a little bit scary, but we wait the turn, make sure they don't catch, fire off the Scorching Sands, and even with the defense drop, my opponent's not able to Dragon Breath us down in time as we get the quick attack down and take that one. GG's. Next battle, Forretress Lead. Now, how I like to play this out is based off the shielding decisions of my opponent here. I'll load up energy, fire off the Hydro Cannon right before the Rock Tomb. And if my opponent shields this, I will shield in return. If they let it go, I will let it go in return. Reason being, you can survive a Rock Tomb and make it to a second Hydro Cannon before your opponent Bug Bites you down. So you're able to force switch advantage that way in the zeros. And if your opponent shields and you shield the Rock Tomb return, you'll be able to outpace to a third Hydro Cannon before their second Rock Tomb to again win that one shield scenario as well. Now here, my opponent does catch a Hydro Cannon on their Giratina, and that's perfectly fine because I have a very nice answer for it in this Tinkaton. Giratina is on Shadow Sneak instead of Ancient Power, so that does allow them to fight back a little bit here, but that is no worries since Tinkaton can survive 2 Shadow Sneaks to get to 2 Play Roughs. So our first Play Rough got shielded. We let that second Shadow Sneak go, survive to reach the second Play Rough. They end up catching it back onto a Bastiodon, which, you know, good catch for them, but unfortunately for that Bastiodon, we have one of the hardest counters in the game in Diggersby, as my opponent does end up conceding. GG's. Next battle, Feraligatr into Greninja. We're going to play out the zero shield scenario here since Feraligatr does win the zeros, even though our Shadow Claws are double resisted and our Hydro Cannon is resisted, while the Greninja gets hit for neutral with the Night Slashes at us. We are able to survive 2 Night Slashes as long as they don't boost, but my opponent is not able to survive 2 Hydro Cannons. So you'll see there that my opponent very smartly over farms and doesn't throw their energy, knowing that I do win the zero shield scenario here. So they will load up on a ton of more energy. They're going to fire off their Night Slash before we get to our third Hydro. We let it go, bring in our Tinkaton, and we're hoping we can get the Fairy Wind down before they reach 2 Hydros, of which we are going to shield the first one, but it doesn't look like we will be able to. So our opponent is going to be able to land the second Hydro. We don't want to give up our final shield yet, especially since we don't know what their back 2 Pokemon are. And one of them's a Quagsire. I'm going to pivot into Diggersby, hoping to have a good matchup into whatever their third is as well, especially with that Greninja out of the way. And it's a Charjabug, but it's on Bug Bite. And now that's going to make this a little bit of an interesting end game. If it was Volt Switch, this game would be over, which most Charjabug will be in this next season due to the buff and damage that Volt Switch is getting. But currently this one's on Bug Bite, which isn't great for us. We get to this Fire Punch. We're hoping to outpace. If we outpace the Fire Punch, we win the game, but we get there on the CMP tie. And that is so unfortunate because that X Scissor gets us just too low to the point where this Quagsire will now be able to Poison Sting down my Diggersby before I can reach a Scorching Sands. I couldn't shield that X Scissor there because my opponent would have been able to reach a Earthquake before I got to a Scorching Sands to take me out regardless. So my win condition there was to outpace that Charjabug, but they get there on that CMP tie by a single Bug Bite. So now I am going to unfortunately just fall a little bit short in this one. As we get to this Bulldoze, not quite able to make the catch. My opponent throws it right away as soon as my switch timer comes up. So we don't make it. Hopefully I make the Fire Punch. I don't. I get Poison Sting down and my opponent's able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Galarian Moltres Lead. And now this one is up to you whether you go for the Hydro Cannon and Ice or Ice Beam. I get a little bit fortunate here. I go for the Hydro Cannon bait. My opponent catches it on their Gator. And in doing so, I can now just maintain switch advantage here because I'm able to fire off this Hydro Cannon before my opponent gets their first one. And if they shield, then I will shield. And if they let it go, then I'll let it go. And that way I get to maintain switch to put their Galarian Moltres onto my Tinkaton. So see here, we get the Shadow Claw down and we leave with a Hydro Cannon to fire off at whatever they come in with. It's a Diggersby, so I will be getting their first shield here. I just mirror my own Diggersby, and from here, this game's over. So I do have the alignment. But in that lead scenario, if they stay in, the reason why I say it's up to you, if you go for the Hydro Cannon or the Ice Beam, is because if you land that Ice Beam, it won't quite KO, but you can shield and then Shadow Claw down the Galarian Moltres if they decide to stay in. While if you go for the Hydro just to account for like a catch or to account for them shielding it, it still does some respectable damage. And if you do go for the Hydro Cannon, I recommend staying in and playing out shielding scenarios and then possibly catching a move onto your Tinkaton. And if you go for the Ice Beam and your opponent shields it, I would just take that shield advantage, let your Gator go, and then come in with your own Tinkaton. Here in this matchup, opponent goes for a Fire Punch, doesn't quite KO, but I'm able to come in with my Tink, which still has 2 shields, now 1, to respect the Scorching Sands. My opponent Fire Punch baits. They reach another Fire Punch here, but that is fine because we leave with a Play Rough to fire off at this Galarian Moltres, and 2 Brave Birds from here won't even KO us. So we are in a dominant position. So we fire off that Play Rough, and my opponent does end up conceding. GG's. Next battle, Gator into Shadow Quagsire. Good lead for Gator, since they have to build all the way up to a Stone Edge to do any meaningful damage to us, while they have the fast move of Mud Shot, and we have Shadow Claw. They pivot into a Giratina Altered. We have the Tinkaton to meet it, and well, that's why Giratina Altered isn't the best safe swap in the Open Great League format, and my opponent concedes. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Pidgeot. Kind of play it out a little bit similar to the regular Pidgeot, except this time with the regular Pidgeot, you go straight Hydro. With the Shadow, just like with the Galarian Moltres, it is up to you to go for the Hydro or the Ice Beam. Shadow Pidgeot love to shield, so it is the safe option to go for the Hydro, as you'll see here, because even letting that Air Cutter go, you will be able to reach 2 Hydro Cannons to do some solid damage to the Pidgeot, where now you can just come in Tinkaton and tank all this energy. This is, I say tank it, and then yet you see me put up a shield here, because I was thinking, you know, it's a Shadow Pidgeot on Air Cutter. They've gotta have Brave Bird for sure, because Shadow Pidgeot Brave Bird, that's gonna do tons of damage even if it's resisted. So I respect it by putting up a shield, and my opponent, they were on Feather Dance. Oh, that felt so bad. But from there, I was able to at least store and bank a ton of energy on my Tinkaton to then use in the end game. We get a Scorching Sands debuff on this Wigglytuff, and that is very nice for the Charm and Icy Wind Pressure. They were able to land the Icy Wind, and we get the Quick Attack down. We would have been able to survive it and get the Quick Attack down anyways, but nonetheless, it is very nice as we do bank that Scorching Sands combo play with our now non-debuffed Play Rough, and this is where we're gonna have to start giving up our shields again. Shield up the Scorching Sands, we make the right shielding decision, go for this Play Rough before they reach their second Scorching Sands. And this end game is going to be a little bit tricky, especially since my opponent still has a shield, since the Scorching Sands will take us out. We have a ton of energy on our own Diggersby though, so we're hoping this Fire Punch will KO, because we get to the first one, which gets their final shield. We get to the second one. Does this KO? If this doesn't KO, my opponent's Fire Punch will KO in return, but it must have been like a 1 HP or 2 HP KO there. So very nice. Diggersby able to clutch up, and we do take that one. GG's. Next battle, Tinkaton Lead. Now, this is one of the main reasons why I'm running a regular Gator in this meta. Shadow Gator gets threatened by a Play Rough landing and then a Fairy Wind farmed out. The regular Gator does not, and it still takes 2 Hydro Cannons to KO Tinkaton regardless. So we play out the zeros here, tank that Play Rough, load up on energy, fire off our next Hydro Cannon on the CMP tied to their Bulldoze. This way, we're still fairly healthy. We get switch advantage and we'll reach a Hydro Cannon against whatever they come in with. It's a Galarian Moltres. We can't reach that Ice Beam, but like I said, we reached that Hydro Cannon for a very nice parting gift. Now we're just going to stay in, let our Gator get Sucker Punch down. So we have the alignment. We can put our Tinkaton on it. They have a Shadow Dusknoir in the back that is on Astonish. Fortunately, it's on Astonish, because if it was on Hex, the faster pacing would be a little bit more difficult here with those dynamic punches. But with Astonish and it being double resisted, we are in a solid spot. We just need to make sure we get this Dusknoir low enough where our Tinkaton can deal with it, since it will outpace my Diggersby considering the energy advantage that it had. I give up my first shield, he gives up his first shield, and I'm able to outpace the Scorching Sands before they throw their dynamic punch. Maybe they got a little bit too caught up in good timing, but instead of throwing on alignment, and instead of them throwing on alignment, I'm able to force that final shield from them. So I can keep my shield here and leave it up to Tinkaton to close out this match, where I can shield up their move here. It is the dynamic punch, which is nice. In comes the Galarian Moltres. They will be able to reach a Brave Bird against me, but that I will still stay out of dynamic punch range. Or just by them going for the Brave Bird, I can just Fairy Wind them down and leave with a move of which my opponent doesn't have one, so they do concede. GG's. Next battle, the Greninja Lead. Now, you will notice this team is ABA weak to grass, but so it's like, oh, you got to stay in there, sack the Gator. Not really. I like to swap it to Tinkaton and force shield advantage in this matchup. You don't play for switch, you don't go down shields, because if you go down shields, the grass type is just going to sweep you, whether that's a superior or Meganium or whatever. You want to be able to force shield advantage from your opponent, because Feraligatr has Ice Beam to threaten the grass types, and Diggersby has Fire Punch. Just whatever you think is going to be more useful for it. But unfortunately, in that mid game, Tinkaton wasn't able to force a shield advantage. That's all right. I will bring in Gator, get an energy lead, and a little bit risky here. I'm going for the bait, and in going for the bait, if my opponent calls it, that's just pretty much game over at this point. It is what it is. You got to try and make any sort of advantage you can in that mid game, but in that one, I unfortunately wasn't able to, since kind of hard countered there as well, and my opponent does take that one with me conceding. GG's. Next battle, Lapras Lead. Load up this energy, go for the Hydro Cannon, and I do like to disrespect the Skull Bash in this matchup, because more often than not they're on Ice Beam, and if they do go for the Skull Bash, well, then props to them. That Tinkaton will be able to get some nice energy lead. Honestly, you know what, I play out the one shield scenario here anyways, so might as well shield the first one just in case it is a Skull Bash. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to quite get the farm down before they reach a third Aria. So I am going to go for a Hydro there to take them out, because I will still be able to reach a Hydro against whatever they come in with. So I get switch advantage, get that shield back, or I don't get that shield back, but I land some nice damage of a Hydro on their Pokemon. Now, I'm going to come in Diggersby because these Thunder Shocks and Discharges will be double resisted, that it forces them to go for an Acrobatics, and it's such a tough bait for them to bait a Discharge as opposed to go for the Acrobatics, that it's a pretty safe shield there. Mulga now gets load up on more energy. They will reach another Acrobatics. We get to let that one land. Then I'm going to go and fire off a Fire Punch right before they reach their next Acrobatics. They catch it onto a Sableye, and that's fine. We still have a Fire Punch stored. We get up to the Scorching Sands. This forces the final shield from my opponent. And if it doesn't, Tink closes it. But if it does, Tink still closes it. We get the attack drop. Attack drop does not matter there, since 2 moves would not threaten us anyways. And we would just be able to get that farm down. Or we still reach the play rough. Don't even let them reach 2 moves, because it keeps us out of discharge range. So we're very easily able to Fairy Wind it down at the Simolga, or a little bit of a 1 HP bulldoze reach right here with a little bit of a no bubble, since that will be enough to kill the Molga. GG's. I hope you've all had a good GBL season so far as we head into the last week of it. And like I said in the beginning, this is a strong team to help you reach any last minute goals, so please feel free to try it out and let me know what you think. Especially with Diggersby getting a little bit of a nerf next season with the attack debuff chance of Scorching Sands being reduced. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.